There is not a single company, there is not a single industry, there is not a single organization that does not have its own jargon.
One of the things that I learned while I was doing this, I didn't learn the vocabulary. I'm always learning new vocabulary, but it wasn't the vocabulary of business that I learned while I was in the process of putting the book together. What I ended up learning was about how people learn language. And that was unexpected to me. I had fallen right in to helping people learn language in the way people learn, that it takes 7 to 20 repetitions to learn a new word. 7 to 20? 7 to 20, yeah. And the difference between 7 versus 20 has as much to do with context as anything else. And that what you learn when you're learning a new language is it's always about the context. So when you think about babies learning language, they're just hearing it in the air and they're figuring it out. And that business English is more about context than any other language grouping. If you don't know what an asset is, then making a distinction between an intangible asset versus an investable asset versus a liquid asset is completely not something that can be understood. You can't. If you already know what assets are, and you already know the difference between a current asset or a fixed asset or a prepaid asset, then the idea of adding in an intangible asset is something that will be easier for you to grab onto. And so I use that as an example of when do you need 7 repetitions versus 20. If you don't know what an asset is, then someone's going to have to be using, and when I see repetition and using a word, I mean hear it, speak it. Each entry that I have in here, each entry is in effect 3 repetitions. I'm giving you the word, I'm giving you a plain definition, and then I'm using it in a sentence. So if you need to hear something 7 to 20 times, right away you've heard it 3, or you've experienced it 3 times. And then by the indexes in the back, if you start looking things up, then you get that word in a different kind of a context with other words that are of a similar subject. And so I'm working with the general idea of accelerating learning, because it is a different language.